Tonight we journey not into what was, but into what might have been. Close your eyes and imagine a world where the Roman Empire never crumbled. No dark ages, no fragmentation, just the steady rhythm of aqueducts flowing, marble cities rising, and Latin echoing across every continent. In this alternate history, the empire endures, not with conquest, but with quiet continuity. Technology advances beneath stone arches. Satellites named for Jupiter orbit a world ruled from a shining, modern Capitoline hill. And everywhere, the language of Caesar and Cicero is still spoken, softly, fluently, universally. This is not a tale of war or collapse, but of what a unified past could mean for our present. How might our cities look? What would our global culture sound like? Would we still dream under stars mapped by Roman astronomers? If you've ever wondered how a single turning point could change the course of human sleep, speech, and science, you're in the right place. So, before we step into this world that might have been, take a quiet moment to like and subscribe to the Still Past. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're listening from, and what time it is for you right now. Now, drift with me into a history reimagined. What if Rome never fell? History often turns on a hinge. A moment so quiet, so subtle, that its echo only grows louder across centuries. And so, we return to one of those hinges. The year is 476 AD. In the heart of the ancient world, a child emperor named Romulus Augustulus is deposed. A general named Odoacer assumes power. And with barely a whisper, the Western Roman Empire ends. But what if it hadn't? What if, instead of collapsing, Rome had quietly reformed? What if emperors had ruled not with vanity, but vision? What if the distant provinces were not lost to time, but woven more tightly into the imperial fold? Tonight, in the soft glow of imagination, we open a different chapter. In our world, Rome's decline came slowly. First the economy weakened, then civil wars splintered trust. Barbarian incursions accelerated the breakdown, and soon, what was once a unified Mediterranean world, linked by trade, law, and a shared identity, dissolved into patchwork kingdoms, tribal rule, and forgotten roads. But let's slow that unraveling. Let's soften the fall. Let's imagine that key reforms did take hold, that wise leaders emerged when the empire needed them most, that the Senate regained relevance, military power was restrained, and citizenship expanded generously to include not just Italy, but the far reaches of Gaul, Hispania, and beyond. No catastrophic sack of Rome, no exile of emperors, no burning of libraries. Just a gradual transition from crisis to stability, from a rigid republic to a flexible federation. Instead of falling, Rome bends. And because it bends, it endures. The Roman world already had all the pieces of longevity. A postal system spanning thousands of miles, a unified legal code, professional bureaucracy, aqueducts, roads, and markets that connected 3 continents, literacy in both Latin and Greek, and a belief, however mythic, in Rome's eternal destiny. In our reimagined timeline, those institutions are not abandoned. They are modernized, slowly, steadily, almost imperceptibly, year by year. By 600 AD, instead of a chaotic medieval Europe, the Mediterranean remains a lake of commerce, a soft sea of marble cities, olive groves, and multilingual debate. Temples become schools, armies become public works forces, and instead of kings and warlords, the world is still ruled from a Senate hall in a still thriving Rome. Imagine a child born in Alexandria in the year 800. Instead of growing up amid invasions, heresy trials, or plague-ridden villages, she learns under the arches of a public library supported by the imperial treasury. She writes her name, Lucilla Juliana, in cursive Latin. She recites lines from Virgil, and also from new poets whose names we've never known, because they were never erased by history. Her family trades papyrus, silk, and cinnamon, all regulated by the imperial mercantile system. They take holidays to Antioch, visit cousins in Carthage, and understand the value of their coin, because inflation has been curbed by a rotating council of regional governors. She does not know what it means for Rome to have fallen, because for her, Rome never did. Where did our timelines split? Perhaps with Diocletian's reforms succeeding beyond expectation. Perhaps with Constantine's blending of church and empire, offering not division, but harmony. Perhaps with the eastern and western halves of the empire, choosing union over rivalry. In this new Rome, the Eastern Empire doesn't drift into Byzantium. It remains tied to the West, sharing law, language, and civil ambition. Constantinople becomes a second Rome, not a separate one. Together, they create a dual capital model. Rome for tradition, Constantinople for innovation. Two centers, one soul. And with time, even further capitals emerge. Nova Carthago, Roma Hispana, Britannia Nova, each pulsing with the same marble-blooded heart. In our history, the fall of Rome ushered in centuries of forgetting, lost maps, forgotten texts, architectural techniques that took 1,000 years to rediscover. But in our imagined world, the empire funds imperial academies, where young citizens debate in open forums. Knowledge is archived, copied, translated, not hoarded by monasteries, but distributed through public scriptoria, early publishing houses where illuminated manuscripts are as common as currency. Medical treatises from Galen evolve into modern anatomy. Aristotle is not reintroduced during the Renaissance. He never disappears. Engineering continues. Archimedean screw pumps lead to hydraulic power centuries earlier. And so the first mechanical clocks appear not in 14th century cathedrals, but in 9th century forums. This is not an empire of conquest. That burned out long ago. Instead, this Rome rules by invitation, what scholars in this alternate future call Imperium Culturae, a cultural empire. It invites regions in, not to dominate them, but to connect them, to offer Roman roads, Roman law, Roman education, in exchange for loyalty to a peaceful federation. Africans, Celts, Arabians, Persians, all become citizens under one roof, not forced into sameness, but allowed local governance beneath a shared civic framework, a tapestry, not a monolith. And with that tapestry comes stability, a 1,000-year peace not because war disappears, but because it is rare, regulated, and always remembered. What does it feel like to live here? It feels slow, deliberate, measured. People walk not in haste but with purpose. Architecture is not about speed but harmony. Public spaces are vast, symmetrical, lined with columns shaded by trees. Everywhere the sound of water, fountains, baths, channels, shadows are long in this world. Time is marked not by devices, but by bells, gnomons, the turning of light on marble. The empire is old, and it behaves like something meant to last. This is the world we now inherit, a modern Roman empire not of emperors and gladiators, but of archivists and engineers, poets and prefects. A world where collapse never came, a world that whispers to us from behind the veil of history, asking not what was, but what might have been. Tonight, we've stepped only into the threshold of that world. Next, we will walk deeper, into its language, its inventions, its dreams. But for now, as the lights dim on this quiet turning point, we pause and listen to the stillness of an empire that never slept. Language is more than communication. It is memory. And in our reimagined world where the Roman Empire never fell, language is the thread that never broke. It binds provinces, peoples, and centuries in a tapestry of soft Latin tones and elegant words, spoken from mountaintops to coastlines. Let's imagine a world where Latin never faded into silence, but bloomed into a living global tongue. In our timeline, the collapse of Rome shattered linguistic unity. Out of Latin came French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, Romanian, a family of languages that still carry Rome's DNA, but no longer speak its name. But here, in the world we're dreaming of, there was no shattering. The great language of law, learning, and love was never orphaned by history. Instead, it evolved gently, curated by generations of scholars, poets, senators, and storytellers. Instead of splitting into dialects of identity, Latin became a fountain that all cultures could drink from. By the 12th century, Latin is no longer the language of a distant past, but the voice of daily life. Imagine a child born in this modern Roman world, let's say in 1523 AUC, or from the founding of the city, our 770 CE. His name is Marcus Ovidius Aurelianus, and his first words are not baby babble, but soft syllables echoing centuries of structure. Mater, pater, aqua, panis. He sings lullabies in Latin. He learns to read from illustrated fables by Livy and new tales by modern bards. By the age of 6, he can quote Cicero and recite market orders to a grocer on a quiet corner near the public baths. He grows into a man fluent in Latin and in dozens of regional dialects: Iberian Latin, Gallic Latin, Egyptian Latin, all mutually intelligible, all honored, all held within a shared root. Language is not a wall here, it is a path. The modern Roman world is a library. Street signs, news reports, scrolls and screen displays, all in Latin. From the grand public forums of Roma Nova to the coastal markets of Mauritania Prima, announcements flow with elegance. Imperium nuntiat novum viam feriam inter Neapolis et Carthaginum. The empire announces a new railway between Naples and Carthage. Senatus deceptat de reformatione tributorum in provincia Hispania. The Senate debates tax reform in the province of Hispania. There are regional words, of course. New inventions require new terms. The telegraph becomes celeriloquium, or fast speech. The computer is machina cogitans, thinking machine. And the internet? Tela mundi, the world's web. These terms do not disrupt Latin, they enrich it. Latin adapts, as it always has. Education in this world begins with rhythm. Children are taught Latin meter before grammar. They feel the language before dissecting it. Poets are not entertainers, but philosophers in verse. And each citizen knows that language is not just for speech, it is for thought. Philosophy classes are conducted in high Latin. Legal disputes are argued with rhetorical form. Even scientific formulas are whispered with poetic cadence. Language here trains the mind, disciplines the heart. And the great speakers, the orators of the new age, are not demagogues, but harmonists. They do not shout, they sway. Fast forward to our present day, or rather, to the year 2778 AUC. A young woman, Tulia Florentina, opens her digital scroll. Her messages are in casual Latin, abbreviated, playful, filled with emojis, but still unmistakably Roman. Quid agis? How are you? Cena hodie apud me. Dinner at my place tonight. Tempus studendi. Time to study. Search engines respond to Latin queries. Podcasts begin with the words Salvete, auditores fideles. Greetings, faithful listeners. Public announcements broadcast with serene voices. Imperium monet de tempestate proxima. The empire issues a warning for the coming storm. The language never died, it simply modernized. Why is Latin so successful in this world? Because it was never political. In this peaceful, enduring Rome, Latin became not a weapon of conquest, but a framework of understanding. It allowed diverse cultures to keep their customs, while sharing a central thread. African provinces speak it with musical intonation. Eastern provinces blend it with Semitic cadence. Northern forests add clipped consonants. And yet, the root holds. Every person, from desert merchant to mountain herbalist, can speak to every other. In a world divided by belief, money, geography, Latin is the one thing everyone has in common. Not just a language, a legacy. This modern Latin is not classical, nor ecclesiastical, nor vulgar. It is continuata Latina, continued Latin, a language that grew organically but gently. Some shifts include simplified declensions, many noun endings regularized for ease, unified syntax, Latin order now more flexible, like English, expanded vocabulary, thousands of new terms adapted from Greek, Arabic, Sanskrit, and modern inventions. Modern punctuation and spacing, clearer than the scriptio continua of old, digital Latin, emojis, abbreviations, stylized glyphs, even a Latin keyboard layout. But the music of the language, its lilting vowels, elegant suffixes, and deep consonants, remains intact. You can still hear Caesar in a weather report, Cicero in a business memo, Virgil in a lullaby. In this world, the most beautiful things are still said in Latin. Lovers whisper, Mea vita, sine te nihil sum. My life, without you, I am nothing. Children ask their grandparents, Narasne mihi fabulam, will you tell me a story? And at funerals, a quiet line is sung in harmony, Requiescat, in pace, sub luna antiqua, may they rest in peace beneath the ancient moon. Even prayers remain, shared across temples, shrines and cathedrals, still voiced in the same tones that echoed through basilicas 2,000 years ago. Language never stands still, not even one with marble bones. New words emerge daily, teenagers reshape syntax with slang, scholars coin philosophical neologisms. Scientists publish theories in hybridized Latin-Greek fusion. Some purists grumble, others embrace it. But no one fears it, because even as Latin evolves, it does not forget itself. And the empire, which has seen centuries unfold beneath its laurel crown, knows how to keep what matters and let go of what doesn't. As the sun sets over this imagined world, we hear Latin not in temples or senate halls, but in kitchens, on balconies, through quiet headphones at twilight. We hear it in bedtime songs, in the rustle of pages, in the soft voice of an elder telling a child, Dormi bene parvule. Cras iterum dicemus de mundo magno. Sleep well, little one. Tomorrow we'll speak again of the great world. And that is the miracle of this language. Not that it ruled the world, but that it still speaks it. Rome was always a civilization of engineers. More than its armies or emperors, it was its roads, aqueducts, and aquept the empire alive. They were not just marvels, they were promises of order, connection, and permanence. But what if Rome never stopped building? Here we wander through a world where that spirit of innovation never faded. A Rome that continued, not through conquest but through quiet invention. A Rome where the laurel wreath crowned not a general's head, but an engineer's mind. Every empire leaves behind bones, roads, walls, ruins. In our history, Rome's bones lie still, overgrown with moss, buried beneath cities, turned into tourist sites. But in this alternate world, the bones were never abandoned. They were strengthened, extended, improved. Roman roads were not forgotten. They became the global highways of today. Still paved in smooth stone, but layered now with electric lines, fiber optics, and sensor grids. You can travel from Londinium Magna, modern London, to Hierosolyma, modern Jerusalem, along the Via Eterna, the Eternal Road. Solar lit, drone monitored, bordered with rest stations modeled after Roman mansiones. Travel is not rushed, it is rhythmic. You do not drive alone. You board the Currus Electricus, the electric carriage, sleek, quiet, and guided by magnetic tracks embedded in ancient stones. Time in this world moves on rails laid millennia ago. Water, Rome's first miracle. The aqueducts of old fed cities of millions, clean, continuous, free. In this new world, those aqueducts still run, but they do more than carry water. Now they are woven with smart systems, monitoring flow, conserving use, purifying as they go. Rome's love for bathing becomes the cornerstone of public health. Imagine bathhouses, still in operation, but now with geothermal heating, solar roofs and digital steam controls. Places of wellness, not vanity. Temples of calm. You enter, you disrobe. You soak in a marble pool warmed by the sun. Above you, Latin poetry glows gently on a sandstone wall. Nearby, a medical officer tends to elders, using AI guided by Galen's principles, refined over centuries. Here, water is not just life, it is dignity. In our world, heroes are often warriors, but in this world, they are builders. Children grow up idolizing inventors, not conquerors. They memorize names like Vitruvius, hero of Alexandria, Julia Domitilla, and also new heroes like Lucius Severinus, who developed the anti-seismic arch, or Aelia Tulliana, who designed the first weather control canopy over Roma Magna's central plaza. The empire honors these minds with statues in public gardens. Their likeness is engraved not with weapons, but with drafting tools and scrolls of blueprints. Even the Senate has a special seat reserved for the Praefectus Technologicus, the prefect of innovation, who oversees not weapons, but infrastructure. The empire expands not by legions, but by laboratories. In this Rome, progress is not a race, it is a craft. Technological advancement happens slowly, carefully, with centuries of documentation. No move fast and break things. Instead, the motto is lente et secure, slowly and safely. Windmills power grain centers. Glasswork is used to concentrate solar rays for heating. Hydraulic systems elevate crops on terraces. Urban planning revolves around sun exposure, seasonal winds, and sound-dampening design. Even electricity came gradually, discovered not in a stormy burst of inspiration, but in the steady experimentation of state-funded scholars over generations. The result? Cities that hum softly with power, not buzz and flicker. Light that glows warmly from under arches. Energy that respects silence. A modern Roman city is unlike any other. It is not vertical, but broad. Designed around the human pace, not the engine. The city centre is a blend of forum, garden and market, surrounded by residential insulae, built in soft stone and recycled marble. Every building is numbered according to a unified imperial grid. There are no advertising screens, no flashing lights, just artisan signage, carved in stone and wood, updated digitally beneath traditional forms. Public works are considered sacred. When a road is dug, the workers chant a short prayer. When a new bridge opens, schoolchildren walk across it first, as a sign that it is safe, and it is theirs. Technology is not about spectacle, it is about stewardship. Homes in this world, called Domus Novae, are blends of tradition and innovation. They center on the atrium, still open to the sky, but now equipped with retractable glass domes that follow the path of the sun. Kitchens use induction heat beneath mosaic counters. Walls are embedded with thermal insulation made from a volcanic limestone composite. Smart tools? Of course, but quiet ones. A calendar that glows softly behind the family shrine. A dream recorder beside the bed, used for psychological insight. A home aqueduct monitor that plays soft chimes when water needs balancing. Even toilets, an old Roman pride, remain celebrated, now self-cleaning, water-saving, and connected to public sanitation AI. Every domus is different, but all are designed for two things: beauty and peace. Science in this world is not siloed, it is sacred. Imperial universities, known as Universitates Augusti, dot every province. There, students study physica, chemia, astronomia, mechanica, and philosophia technologica, not just for jobs, but as a civic duty. Labs are built like temples, clean, symmetrical, quiet. Instruments sit beside scrolls. Hypotheses are logged in both text and diagram, inscribed with care into digital parchment hybrids that store data for centuries. Medicine advances steadily. Early discoveries in antisepsis, neurology, and hormonal balance appear centuries ahead of our timeline. Hospitals are public, serene, and adorned with frescoes that soothe the mind as the body heals. The Hippocratic Oath is recited in Latin. Doctors wear robes with soft laurel motifs. And sleep clinics, oh yes, there are many, operate in total silence, studying dreams as windows to the divine. Yes, Rome has reached the stars. Satellites orbit above, bearing names like Aquila, Mercurius, and Aurora. The space agency, Imperial Exploratorium Caelestis, launched its first solar vessel from Alexandria Prime in the year 2751 AUC. It bore a plaque that read, Roma aeternum est, sed caelum infinitum. Rome is eternal, but the sky is infinite. Spacecraft are crafted with grace, rounded, polished, efficient. No scrap metal or brute force, just the quiet pursuit of the sublime. Astronomers still study constellations in ancient Latin, but now they map exoplanets with digital astrolabia. Their mission is not colonization but contemplation. To understand, not to rule. Even in space, the Empire remembers its first vow, to build, not to burn. In this Rome, no old tool is discarded lightly. The abacus still exists, but is paired with neural chips. Scrolls are preserved alongside cloud libraries. The wheel is revered, but the maglev is honored beside it. Rome does not throw away its past, it upgrades it. The Empire teaches children the same thing, that progress is not reinvention, but refinement. Each tool, each idea, each generation, another stone in the arch, and the arch always holds. The city dims. The lights glow like amber from within colonnades. the fountains run. And somewhere in a marble laboratory beneath the stars, a young woman leans over her notes. She adjusts her instrument, a spectroscope etched with vines. She speaks quietly into a dictation scroll. Experimentum 87 completum, lux refractor in angulo novo, spero eventum melius cras. Experiment 87 complete. Light refracted at a new angle. I hope for better results tomorrow. She places the scroll on the shelf, next to her ancestors' diagrams. She turns off the lamp and walks home beneath a sky full of Roman stars. What sustains an empire is not stone or steel or even soldiers. It is belief. Here we enter the spiritual and philosophical heart of a world where Rome never fell, where its moral compass, its rituals, and its quiet search for meaning continued unbroken. This is not the Rome of gods and gladiators, nor is it the medieval church of burning heresies. This is a gentler Rome, wise with age, softened by dialogue, and held together by the rhythms of ritual and reason. Let's step into the stillness of a sacred empire. In our world, religion in the empire became a battleground. The early Christians clashed with the old Roman pantheon. Councils debated doctrine. Emperors used faith to consolidate control, often brutally. But in our reimagined timeline, Rome survives by learning to harmonize, not conquer. Christianity is embraced, but not to the exclusion of older traditions. Instead, Rome adopts what it always did best: integration. Temples are not torn down, they are repurposed. The Temple of Jupiter becomes a house of wisdom, shrines to Minerva become libraries, festivals honoring Saturn become charitable civic feasts during the winter solstice. Christianity remains central, but inclusive, softened by Stoicism and layered with ancestral reverence. And so the modern Roman citizen prays in a language that is both new and ancient. Faith in this world is not centralized in megachurches or hierarchical control. It is dispersed, personal, woven into everyday life. Shrines stand at every street corner. One to Juno, for protection of the family. One to Christos Salvator, for mercy and peace. One to Sophia, goddess of wisdom, a post-classical invention, blending pagan myth with theological depth. Each shrine is tended by community stewards, not priests, but philosophers in service. Public rituals are quiet. Offerings are symbolic. There are no sermons, only readings, shared reflections, and music played softly on lyres or water organs. There are no loud conversions, no shouted condemnations, just slow evolution. Belief that grows like moss on marble. The Vestal Virgins once tended the sacred flame of Vesta, guardian of the home. In this Rome, that tradition lives on, but transformed. Now called the Custodes Domus, guardians of the civic flame, they are a non-partisan council of women elected to advise the Senate on issues of family, justice, and peacekeeping. They wear white. They speak rarely, but when they do, the entire forum stills to listen. They oversee social harmony laws, child welfare protections, national mourning ceremonies, the ceremonial lighting of the eternal flame on each solstice. They are the conscience of the empire, not political, not religious, but symbolic. In their silence, Rome remembers itself. The Roman calendar remains deeply spiritual. Instead of religious holidays being segmented by belief systems, they are celebrated by purpose. Dies Concordiae, Day of Harmony, multi-faith prayers in public squares, Noctes Philosophorum, Philosophers' Nights, open forums under the stars, Vigilia Terrae, Earthwatch, eco-rituals, tree planting, citywide quietude, Dies Luminum, Day of Lights. Every home places a candle in the window for those lost, forgotten, or far away. These are not enforced holidays, they are invitations. And in this Rome, people answer not with noise, but with presence. The government itself feels monastic. The Senatus Aeternus, or Eternal Senate, meets in robes of soft blue. They debate not with shouting, but with turn-based speech. A system where each voice is heard once, before any reply may be given. Deliberations are slow. Some policies take years to finalize, but they last for centuries. The government is transparent. Debates are publicly archived. Senators are not celebrated. but respected. Their greatest honor is not applause, but peace. And the highest civic award is not a crown, but a laurel carved from olive wood, inscribed with the words, "He quieted more storms than he stirred." Spirituality in this Rome is not about salvation. It is about alignment. People meditate in public gardens. They fast not from food, but from noise. Children are taught not only to write, but to listen. Elders are honored not for their wealth, but for their calm. Each city has a templum pacis, temple of peace, where no decisions are made, no business transacted, no rituals performed. Just quiet, for whoever needs it. These are the most sacred spaces in the empire. Even emperors kneel there. At night, philosophy becomes practice. Sleep is not escape. It is a sacred return. People prepare for sleep with warm baths, herbal infusions, and a short reading from the Meditationes Nocturnae, night meditations, a collection of reflections by philosophers, emperors, and anonymous sages. One popular passage, recited softly before bed, goes, "The sun has seen your labors, the stars have judged them worthy. Now let the mind untie its knots, and float where dreams remember what the waking world forgets." And so, beneath domed ceilings and linen sheets, the empire rests, not with exhaustion, but with intention. Each Roman hour ends with a soft chime from the city bell towers. It is not loud, just enough to remind each citizen another chapter has passed. In the distance, a public square empties. The last candle flickers in the temple window, and a philosopher scribbles one final line in her journal. Vixi bene, cras russus. I have lived well, tomorrow again. The flame of Rome burns on, not with fire but with grace. Maps do not just chart geography, they chart power, they chart dreams. And now we unroll a different map, one where the Roman eagle never folded its wings, and the world was not divided by borders but held together by marble roads and shared language. In this alternate world, Rome never fell, and as it endured, it expanded, not by force but by invitation. What does a Roman globe look like? Let's walk it together. By the year 1000 AUC, our 247 CE, the Roman Empire had already reached from the misty shores of Britannia to the deserts of Arabia, from the forests of Germania to the sands of Egypt. In our timeline, that expanse fractured, but in this one, it holds. Rome rethinks expansion. It no longer conquers, it integrates. It offers law, trade, peace, and infrastructure in return for voluntary entry into a federated empire. This creates a new model of diplomacy, known as provincial embrace. Instead of empires colliding, regions join. West Africa becomes Provincia Nigerensis. The Indus Valley becomes Provincia Indica. South China becomes Provincia Serica Transalpina, and eventually, the New World becomes Provincia Novae Terrae. It is a soft expansion, slow, respectful, almost like roots growing into soil. The empire does not erase, it embraces. There are no countries in the modern Roman world. There are provinces, semi-autonomous, regionally governed but united by law, currency and language. Each is ruled by a praefectus provinciae, a prefect, elected locally, trained centrally, and loyal not to a flag, but to the common civic code. There is no nationalism, no tribal identity elevated above the rest. Cultural uniqueness is preserved. Food, dress, music, but citizenship is global. A young woman born in Provincia Mauritania, North Africa, can study in Provincia Britannia, modern UK, work in Provincia Iaponia, Japan, and retire to Provincia Patagonica. She is not foreign anywhere, she is Roman everywhere. The empire organizes the planet like a giant urban plan. Each province is divided into regions, then civitatis, city-states, then vici, villages. Every settlement is assigned a civic number, not for control but for coordination. Emergency services, water allocation, voting cycles and public records are synchronized across continents. The entire globe runs on one calendar system, one clock cycle, and one civic code of ethics. Disagreements happen, but the mechanisms to resolve them are shared, debated in interprovincial forums, settled by rotating panels of scholars, not warlords. The world map is not a puzzle of rival powers. It is a living mosaic. The Roman Senate is no longer limited to Rome. It has grown into the Senatus Orbis Terrarum, the Senate of the Earth. Representatives come from every province, each fluent in Latin, each steeped in the civitas curriculum, a universal education program grounded in law, ethics, engineering, and environmental science. The Senate rotates among 5 capitals: 1. Roma Magna, Italy; 2. Nova Alexandria, Egypt; 3. Constantinopolis Aeterna, Turkey; 4. Hispalis Major, Spain; 5. Carthago Reconciliata, North Africa. Senators wear regional colours but share the same insignia. SPQR, Senatus Populusque Romanus, still the people, still the Senate, just more people, and more world. In this world, every child, everywhere, learns Latin. 1 regional dialect, Stoic philosophy, world history as a single continuous narrative, not separated by country, but united by era. Civil engineering and environmental stewardship. By the age of 12, they've read texts from Roman Spain, Persian poets, Chinese astronomers, and African mathematicians, all translated into shared Latin editions. There is no Western or Eastern canon. There is just knowledge, preserved, shared, revered. And when students graduate, they receive the same certificate worldwide. Diploma Universae Civitatis, citizen of the universal state. The world looks different. Consider, the Mediterranean is still the center, but now called Mare Civile, the civil sea. Africa is not colonized, it is central. Its provinces are seats of philosophy and environmental innovation. Asia is not a mystery, it is an honored elder. The provinces of Indica, Serica, and Nippon merge ancient wisdom with civic order. The Americas are not discovered, they are met. Trade, language, and astronomy are exchanged peacefully over centuries. Provinces like Nova Hispania, Amazonia Felix, and Colombia Septentrionalis become key centers of learning. The map doesn't radiate from Europe, it radiates from everywhere. Economics in this Rome is collaborative. All provinces contribute to a shared treasury, not through taxes of extraction, but through value-added exchange. Gold is no longer the standard. Rome has moved to a resource-based digital ledger system, Aes Civium, the currency of citizens. Each province has economic sovereignty, but aligns with the Imperial Exchange Board, a transparent, AI-supported institution that prevents inflation, ensures surplus sharing, and funds public infrastructure worldwide. There are no stock markets. Instead, there are trade forums where artisans, engineers, and educators present their innovations for state patronage. Value is measured not just in currency, but in dignity. Even in this world, conflict exists, but war as we know it doesn't. Each province maintains a cohors civica, civic cohort, trained in emergency relief, ecological defense, and non-lethal intervention. Their weapons are nets, shields, drones, and sound waves, not bullets. When tensions rise, they don't deploy armies. They send mediators trained in dialectics, mobile public forums, traveling shrines, and neutral sanctuaries. Historical reconciliation teams who present shared narratives in both cultures' languages. History is not erased, it is used to prevent repetition. Peace isn't passive, it's practiced. The world runs on one time system, the Roman meridian, based on solar positioning at Roma Magna, but each region retains its own cultural clock for festivals, rest periods, and prayer times. Temples and observatories coexist. Some provinces pray 5 times a day, others light candles once per week, but all recognize the Dies Communis, the day of global reflection, where once per month, all civic activity stops for 6 hours. People walk, meditate, talk, sleep. Even satellites reduce function during this window. It is built into law. The world breathes together. Every city has 3 zones. Zona Viva, for homes, markets, daily life. Zona Studii, for education, philosophy, and research. Zona Memoriae, for quiet contemplation, historical markers, and ancestral shrines. These are not museums. They are lived in, maintained, updated. A child can walk past a shrine to a forgotten poet, beside a modern AI laboratory, and know that both matter. The past is not behind. It is beneath our feet. Always. Sleep is older than civilization, but the way we sleep is shaped by the world we build around it. In this imagined Roman future, where the empire never fell, where faith and reason, law and infrastructure still guide the globe, how would rest itself evolve? We close our eyes not just on stone-pillared cities and domed data centers, but on the rhythms of rest in a world where dreams still belong to the divine. Let us drift through the gentle history of Roman sleep, reimagined. Even in ancient times, Romans took sleep seriously. They built bedrooms, cubiculum, away from the noise of the atrium. They used oil lamps for soft lighting. They slept on mattresses stuffed with wool or straw, elevated, not just for comfort but for status. There were customs. A short afternoon rest called meridiatio, a long night broken into segments, with midnight readings, prayers, or brief conversations in between. Communal sleeping arrangements for the poor, private rooms for the wealthy. Public bathhouses as pre-sleep rituals, and temples where dreams were interpreted by priests or oracles. In this alternate world, those customs didn't vanish, they evolved. In our world, segmented sleep faded during the industrial age. But here, without industrialization disrupting human rhythms, it became optimized. The Roman night is naturally divided into two watches: prima somnia, the first sleep, from twilight until midnight; secunda somnia, the second sleep, from post-midnight until dawn. In between is the silent hour, a sanctioned sacred time for stillness. You may rise for a bath, a journal entry, a silent prayer, a brief conversation under the stars, or simply to sit beside a candle and listen to the world breathe. This hour is honored. Even cities dim their lights and slow their digital systems. The world agrees, rest deserves reverence. Roman evenings are never rushed. Each household follows gentle rituals called ordines quietis, orders of stillness. A typical sequence might include a warm herbal bath infused with lavender, thyme and fig leaves, application of unguentum dormiens, a sleep balm for temples and wrists, a small glass of mulled wine or honeyed milk, family readings of classical poetry, moral tales or celestial guides, brief gratitude entries in one's libellus nocturnus, a sleep journal, a lighting of the family's lucerna patis, peace lamp, said to guide dreams. There is no television, no doom scrolling, only soft routines, slow transitions. Sleep is not escape, it is participation. In this modern Rome, bedrooms are called cubicula somniorum, dream chambers. They are designed with deliberate sensory care. Ceilings are painted with constellations, mimicking the sky at the time of your birth. Windows are crafted with bronze louvers that echo wind like distant flutes. Beds are structured with balance-adjusting stone bases, warmed naturally. Walls are built from volcanic ash stone that absorbs excess moisture and sound. Floors are covered in wool mosaics, warm to the touch, soft underfoot. A central shelf holds a small dream offering bowl, typically containing olive leaves or a personal token. A clay diffuser releasing scents of fig, wood, rosemary or laurel. A wax-sealed sleep journal, opened only at dawn. Even the architecture rests with you. In ancient Rome, dreams were messages from the gods. In modern Rome, they are still honored, but through science, philosophy, and community. Every citizen has access to somnariums, public sleep clinics designed to analyze dream patterns, improve circadian rhythms, treat insomnia with music, massage, and memory therapy, offer dream interpretation services blending stoic reflection and cognitive science. Dreams are discussed in monthly vigiliae communes, community gatherings where citizens share symbolic dreams, not for mysticism, for meaning. A senator might quote a dream during a policy debate. A child's drawing of a recurring symbol might guide civic design. An inventor may record dream images into scrolls that inspire new machines. The night feeds the day. Different provinces bring unique sleep customs, all integrated under Roman tradition. Provincia Aegyptus. Citizens sleep in rooftop chambers open to the stars. Night winds are filtered through alabaster screens carved with sacred geometry. Provincia Indica. Sleep begins with draped incense rituals and devotional chants to Somnus, god of rest, now merged with Vedic traditions. Provincia Nipponia. Bedrooms are sunken into warm sandbeds infused with herbs. Citizens practice kanzo, emptiness meditation, before rest. Provincia Iberica. Late-night music and storytelling precedes segmented sleep. The gap between watches is filled with tea and slow dancing. Provincia Amazonica. Forest sounds are piped into dream chambers to simulate ancestral rhythm. Sleep is tied to moon phases and rain cycles. Sleep becomes the world's common language, soft, respectful, borderless. Rome's enduring institutions of knowledge have advanced sleep science well beyond our own timeline. Neuroscientists, philosophers, and engineers collaborate in a branch called Somnologia Integrata, integrated sleep studies. Their achievements include harmonic sleep chambers, pods that use resonance to match the brain's sleep cycles, aurora drapes, ceiling veils that project calming starlight sequences based on ancient constellations, Memoriana, a tool that helps encode certain dreams into structured memory, used by scholars, artists, and elders. Somnographers, public poets who translate sleep studies into gentle verse to help citizens reflect on their own dream patterns. Sleep becomes more than rest. It becomes learning, recovery, reconnection, a public utility, a civil right. Religious observances are deeply connected to rest. Temples of Somnus hold all-night vigils twice per year, where citizens sleep in shared halls beneath domed skies, while dreamkeepers record themes of collective consciousness. Shrines of the quiet flame welcome the grieving to rest in silence near candlelight, believing the spirits of loved ones guide sleep during mourning. Dream pilgrimages are taken by elderly citizens to ancient sites, Delphi, Alexandria, Ephesus, where rest is taken over a cycle of 3 moons, blending meditation, therapy, and myth. Even the Custodes Domus, Rome's sacred council of peacekeeping women, spend 1 week per year in silence, observing dream fasting, avoiding imagery, noise, and speech to deepen their nightly visions. Rome has its own sleep calendar, not just for hours and months, but for cycles of restoration. Every citizen has a designated Somnus Aeternus day once per season, a full civic holiday devoted entirely to rest, dream study, and solitude. Workplaces rotate nocturnum weeks, allowing employees to shift hours seasonally to align with natural sleep rhythms. The Empire tracks and publishes the Dream Index, a non-commercial metric used to monitor national well-being based on public sleep health. Sleep well isn't a farewell. It's a civic virtue. Because sleep is sacred, so too is rest in public life. Nap courtyards exist in every civic building, stocked with warmed benches and sound-dampening walls. Transit nap cabins are standard in interprovincial trains and skyships. Midday silence is observed in all cities. No construction, no public debate, no music louder than 20 decibels. Elders' sleep circles are held weekly in temples, where older citizens lead story-based meditations for youth, blending wisdom and calm. Even the emperor sleeps publicly once a year, a symbolic nap taken in the forum's peace pavilion, to remind all that no one is above the rhythms of the body. So how would we sleep in a Rome that never fell? Gently, ritually, together. We would dream in Latin. We would rest under marble arches carved with stars. We would share our dreams not in search of omens but understanding. And as we lay down in our chambers, warmed by ancient stone and lunar light, the world would seem not small, nor chaotic, but vast and held. Because in this world, sleep is not the absence of life. It is its deepest expression. Close your eyes. Listen for the sound of footsteps on stone, the quiet trickle of an aqueduct, a voice in Latin reading by candlelight. It was all so vivid, so close. A Rome that never fell, peaceful, global, timeless. But now, slowly, we return. Back through the mist of imagined roads and temples, back across maps not drawn, back from dream chambers and domed forums, to the world we live in, fractured, fast, and flickering with neon. Yet the journey was not wasted, because in asking what might have been, we begin to see what still could be. Rome did fall. The empire fractured. The city crumbled. The world moved on. But it didn't vanish. Rome echoes everywhere, in the legal systems of dozens of countries, in our languages, In every word like justice, memory, citizen, honor. In the arches and domes of our buildings. In our calendars, our alphabets, our coins, and our dreams. And in quiet moments, when the noise fades, Rome still speaks. From our imagined world, we glimpse what the real world lost. The continuity of civic design, the gentleness of philosophy at the heart of policy, a universal language grounded in nuance and respect, rituals that honored sleep, silence, aging, and peace, an empire not driven by conquest but by cohesion.
And perhaps most of all, we lost time. Time to build slowly, to speak carefully, to dream communally, to plan for centuries, not quarters. In our timeline, the fall of Rome created a vacuum. Into that vacuum rushed ambition, division, noise. But history is not a straight line. We can still turn. Not everything was lost. Much of Rome still breathes beneath our modern world. The way we pave our roads, the value we place on civic duty, the structure of our laws, the pursuit of justice as a social good, the idea that the state should not just rule, but serve. Even Stoicism, long buried beneath history, is returning. In therapy, in mindfulness, in quiet apps that remind us to breathe. Perhaps we are beginning, again, to remember. Speculative history isn't about changing the past. It's about changing our relationship to the present, to see that other paths were possible, and still are. Maybe we cannot bring back the world we just imagined, but we can build small pieces of it. A room without screens, a street with less noise, a schedule with breathing room, a home with candles and calm, a dinner shared in silence, a dream written in a notebook, a decision made not for profit, but for peace. These are not ancient luxuries. They are choices, still possible, still Roman. So tonight, before you sleep, take one more look back. Imagine the roads again, the aqueducts, the domes of glass and marble, the philosopher in the Forum, the child in Amazonica reading Latin under a starlit canopy, the senator lighting a candle for harmony, the mother journaling her dream beside an altar of fig leaves and laurel. And imagine, not with sadness, but with hope. Because if such a world could be imagined, then somewhere within us, it already exists. Rome does not rule the world today, but it whispers, in every quiet moment of reflection, in every stone beneath a modern city, in every courtroom where law speaks before anger, in every engineer drawing water toward a home, in every philosopher reminding us, live with purpose and peace. Rome whispers beneath our feet, in stone, in language, in dreams. And perhaps, if we slow down enough, we may whisper back. So now, gently, we leave the marble arches behind. We return to our time, our homes, our rooms, but we bring something with us. Not grandeur, not empire, just a question. What if the world had grown with gentleness instead of greed? And the answer? It still might. Good night, traveler. Rest well.